I feel like you always say something funny right before our lives just so we come on laughing.
You're the one who was singing.
You're the one who made fun of me singing.
I just made a comment about your singing.
Good thing we didn't fight about it.
Oh. For real. For real, for real. Alright, y'all. So we've been asked by a lot of people, what is a relationship agreement? Some people get all weird and they're like, oh, is it like a business contract or something? It's like, no, it's not a business contract.
People ask me all the time, are you actually happy? Are you actually in love? Does he make you feel good?
Yes,
people ask me that all the time.
Yeah, they're like, well, just make sure you like feel like you're in love. I'm like, it's so funny what people's minds will jump to when you say something like relationship agreement. And they immediately like assume the worst. It's so funny. So anyway, we're here to clear the air on that because we've been asked by many people, what is that? So what's a relationship agreement? Why would that be beneficial? And then we're going to talk about something else too. Oh, how we actually sat down and did it, right?
Yeah, we're going to talk about what the relationship agreement is, why it's vital to actually win in relationships, and to avoid having these bickering arguments that are like...
Yeah, it's actually feeding something. We'll get into that. Yeah.
And
then we're going to explain...
Yeah, then just like
how we did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, which can serve as a jumping off point for all y'all. So, alright. First, what is a relationship agreement? Well, I can tell you this. It's not something that just happens in your mind where you think that you and the other person are on the same page.
It's not a feeling.
Yeah, it's not a feeling per se, though you get really good feelings from it. It's not a feeling or a
based
high. Yeah. So what a relationship agreement is sitting down, mapping out what are the things, you can call them principles, you can call them truths, beliefs, agreements that you stand for. That both of you can say, yes, I agree to do this. And if I don't do this, we can work together to restore it. And as you'll see from this video and from other videos, you'll see just why that's so important and why that's such a missing key in every relationship. If you haven't done this. So that's what a relationship agreement is. It's sitting down and just talking about and writing out what you agree on, and then you actually agree on it. You don't have to shake hands. You could if you wanted to.
Yeah, you can.
I don't think we've ever shaken hands.
We did something. Did we write our signatures?
Yeah, so we ended up writing it out as well. And then we both signed the piece of paper.
It's vital to not assume in your mind you're on the same page with the other individual.
Yeah.
You need to speak it. You need to write it. Just get it out there. And both people agree. And this is something that should have happened at the beginning of your relationship. But say you're in the middle of a relationship. Say you're married. Say you're 95 years old and you still have a significant other. Well, this is necessary for you to win in your relationship, to actually speak out loud the things that you agree upon and the principles that you live by, and to help hold each other accountable as well as hold yourself accountable within those. And in life, you'll find that without that foundation to go back to no matter what, you're lost. It's like walking without a direction. It's like going through life without a direction. And so you don't know where you're going. And so you're just wandering aimlessly.
Or you're wandering chasing a feeling of like, oh, okay, we haven't had that feeling in a while. Maybe I have to buy her some flowers. Maybe I have to like get her some chocolate. Oh, I don't know. The way she like said goodbye to me this morning was like, I don't know. Maybe she's in the mood again or something. So like, and then that becomes then that thing that you're chasing instead of something that's actually real that you both have agreed upon. It becomes this weird unspoken, like, oh, like we feel in love. Oh yeah, it's just been great or it's been bad. But like that then becomes the weak foundation where then you guys will fight. And you will find random stuff to fight about. And it will get annoying, and you'll build up all this ammunition in the back of your mind. So as soon as she looks at you that way, you can just unleash. I know people know what I'm talking about. And so that is what the agreement is just speaking it, like Jess was saying, speaking it, agreeing to it, writing it down, and then having some sort of check-in with it. So some examples of what you would agree to. You could agree to doing our best. Like, I'm actually going to do my best in the way I show up with you, in the way if you have kids, in your work, all that. And if the other person agrees to that, then you are in agreement. Now you still have to go do it, but that's an example of something you could agree to. Or being honest, even if it hurts the other person.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Another one is I agree to not emotionally manipulate you for my own self-interest.
Yeah.
That's a deep one. I would write that one down. That could be a whole video in itself. But really,
we'll do videos on every principle.
Yeah. Oh, because that was the other day. What was that? You were doing so. It was like adorable, but she was actually like, it was like the most adorable thing. But it was for her own self-interest. God, what was that?
I don't know, but the other day you emotionally manipulated me too, and you said it out loud. You were like, "Oh, I just emotionally manipulated you," and I was like, oh, "Okay."
It's so but by emotional manipulation, you look at it in the sense of you're acting in a way where you know the other person's gonna feel some type of way, so they're gonna do something. Kind of like, you ever been guilt tripped before?
What did I do? Oh, you got
it'll come back to me. I'll post it. I'll talk about it at some point. I'm just repressing it right now, so our next fight. I'm just kidding. What if? How funny would that be? We're like making a video about that, and we're like actually fighting. So that's what it is. Now, why would you do that? Well, this you'll hear in all of our videos, but it's because without it, you'll just fight, and you won't even know why you're fighting. And that will have so much consequence, even if it's just you two or if you have kids. Like, there's so much downfall to not having an agreement. And when you do have the agreement, it is the coolest thing ever because you're able to actually bond. And you understand, like, hey, she really values honesty. She really values, I know the things that she values and she knows what I value. So now, like, let's say she got me a birthday gift or something. Like, it's like a really good gift. It's not just like, oh, she just got me this because whatever. Like, she knows I really value, for example, like personal development. So she got me this journal in my favorite pens. I'm like, that's freaking awesome. It wasn't just like some like socks or some shit like that. Like, so that's another benefit and the reason why a relationship agreement is so important, because it serves as a foundation by which you two can then start building together. That's in the simplest way. Why would you say it'd be beneficial?
Then it's not imaginary.
What do you mean?
Leaves no room for guessing.
Oh, like in your relationship?
Yeah, in the relationship, absolutely. So if you haven't built your relationship on principles and things you agree upon, then it's all unspoken, and it's just feelings and emotions that you're like, okay, yeah, I feel this way about this person, which justifies me being with them. And they've continued to make me feel this way for like 5 years. So it makes sense, Well, yeah, that's great. But as soon as things start, surfacing, and you guys have all this ammunition built up from these little things you've said or these little things you've done, and you get over your honeymoon phase or whatever it may be, or even if you guys don't fight, if you aren't built on principles, you're just built on feelings, what are you building? Are you building just more feelings? Is that all that you accomplish within your relationship? If that's all you want to do, stop watching our relationship videos. Like this, we won't be supportive for you, because we're talking about actually fundamentally changing things, actually moving and building something, actually accomplishing something by being together, having a purpose for being together. And so if you just want to be in relationships to have feelings and satisfy a desire that you have, that's not what our videos are about. So
And as you have a purpose and you're building that together, like all the stuff we're doing with our businesses and just the people that we work with, we feel so freaking awesome, like all the time. And yeah, there's hard days, but you build even more awesome feelings from that. So don't think we're like these robot people that is like must have purpose. Only
No.
purpose matters.
Actually, it's quite the opposite.
Mhm.
I see fundamentally if you are just chasing feelings continuously, you are but the robot.
Yeah. Wow.
Because
That's a deep one.
we are actually existing here and moving and creating and things like that. Like that's totally the opposite of a robot. A robot is just following chasing these feelings, things like that. And so
And on that point, it's like if you know that, let's say you didn't put the dishes away or something, and that's gonna make your wife or your husband mad. That's a robot. That's like input output. You can guarantee if those dishes aren't done, they're gonna freak out. Little things like that. As opposed to being here, directing yourself, realizing, hey, maybe one day I don't do the dishes or something when Jess asked me to, and she's like, hey, I asked you to do the dishes. Like, what happened? But it's like so stable because we're actually here. We're built on real foundation instead of this like, oh shit, I didn't do the dishes. Oh, she's gonna be pissed. Oh, and then the other day, like, oh, this is gonna be bad.
yeah, but if something like that happens and then you just communicate about it and you don't react, you just respond. Or if, say, Mitch just got really busy and he just forgot and he just shoots me a message and is like, hey, like, I got caught up doing something with the business and I just didn't have time to do the dishes. I acknowledge that and I will take responsibility of it moving forward. Boom. Oh, okay. That's okay. I'll put them away for you. Not a big deal.
And the thing about that, imagine you see one couple where it's like that would be like a blow up argument and they'd fight about it for a while, versus another couple where that is just like, okay, just a conversation, cool, and then they keep moving forward. Imagine 6 months down the road or 6 years down the road, which couple's gonna really flourish and really have an awesome relationship versus
just continuing
just
to
more
fight all the
fights.
time.
Yeah, and then it's like it was weird. The other day I was I think it was like my dad had some friends over or something, but it's almost like this kind of expected thing with some people. I forgot where it was, but it was like around some older guys, and it was just this expected thing where it was like the women. Oh, I remember. Yeah, it was some people I was with last weekend, where it's kind of like expected, like, okay, the women have their thing, and they're just that. The women, and we're the guys, and we have this thing, and it's like so weird to me to think that like that would just be, you would just accept that of like, oh, it's like the women and the guys and we just do our different things. It's like, well, yeah, the women can do their thing and the guys can do their thing, but it's almost like this spiteful way of looking at like women, like, oh, they'll just never understand. So I just see that like is just such bullshit, and that's again why we make these videos, is to show there's a different way of looking at relationships, and it's actually the most fulfilling thing that I've ever found. Thank you. Right? Yeah. So there's that. Now you want to get into how did we do it? Do you remember, Jess?
Yeah.
Well, it was a cool spring day back in April.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was a Saturday.
Uh-huh. We were downtown. It was awesome, and we were hanging out.
I'm gonna rewind a week.
Okay.
Because honestly, that's the only preface I had to this, other than meeting you a year ago-ish.
Basically a year ago now, yeah.
So, I met this dude at some meetup, and
This dude being me, not like some random dude.
and he just like volunteered to write on this whiteboard thing, and like we were talking about vocabulary, and there was just like this whole little thing we're doing, and he was coming up with all of these words, and a couple of them I had never even heard before, and I was like, okay, this is cool. And at that meetup, I ended up not getting the chance to talk to him. At the next meetup, it was more of a roundtable conversation this time, and we ended up just chatting about some of the things that he was doing at the time. And I was like, yeah, I'd like to know more information about that. And so then he showed me more. I'm sure we brought it up in these videos before, and if you follow our pages, you know. So we work with the company TechnoTutor, and so that's when he showed me like what TechnoTutor is, and then we were just like friends and business partners until last April, and then a week before that Saturday, I'd been talking to our friend Asif, and I was just like trying to figure out my life, like, hey, I don't know what to do. I'm looking at kind of, who to, like, what I would need to find in a partner, like, the most important things, and just, like, laying that out and, like, defining that, and then writing out, like, my principles that I stand by that I would expect the other person to stand by, and just, like, all these things. And then Asif just asked me, well, what are the people around you that you see doing that? And so then, I was talking about, and he's like, and tell me about each one. So I was listing off a couple of people, and I got done, and he's like, who did you talk about most? I was like, Mitch. And he's like, okay, that's cool. And then, like, he just, like, planted that seed right there, and I was like, and I just thought about it for the rest of the week, and well, it was like 2 days actually before, and then that morning I had another conversation with Asif. I was like, yo, Asif, Mitch is coming over here. Like, I don't know, I just like reached out to him about it, and he's like, well, have you clearly defined your principles that you stand by? And I'm like, yes. And he's like, okay, cool, have fun. Cool. And then this guy shows up, and we were gonna watch the Century of the South.
Yeah, we were watching Century of the South.
Yeah.
It's a really good documentary.
Very good documentary. And we got through the first part, and there's 4 parts. It's a 4-part series. And then I just remember you looking at me, and you're like, hey. I was like, hey. Like, I knew where this was going already. I don't know why, I just did. And you were like, so this is what's been going on. Like, you gave me an up. Why don't you chime in?
Yeah, so then at that point, I was just like, I had already made the decision within me. I'm going to go and lay this all out for her. This is what I see. This is what I want. I want to be with you. And this is why it makes sense. Like, let's do it. Let's form a relationship agreement. And, yeah, so I was just like talking with her. I basically laid it out. I was like, hey, this is where I've been at the past year. So, like, I caught her up to speed on everything in my life, like where I've been at, just where I now see the future going. And just told her, like, hey, we should be in a relationship agreement. Like, we should form that. And I don't know exactly what that looks like right now, but I want to do that. Mm-hmm. And I want you to come along with me on that. Mm-hmm. And she's like, what do you say?
Well, I thought out loud for a few minutes, just to kind of like analyzing where I was at and seeing, what that would kind of look like, and seeing what I saw within him at that point in time. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it was like very straightforward. But then we ended up like hanging out. We like got some food and like made some dinner.
Yeah, I made dinner.
Well, yeah, so she made dinner. She's like, oh, I'm like really good at cooking and like I'm really good at cleaning. I was like, oh, that's great. I hate cooking and I hate cleaning. So it was like all these cool stuff started happening. And then just talk more about the vision of the future. Okay, cool. Like this is really great. So then we just went through. So there's like 13 principles, and I've been making them on my page the past like 2 weeks. And we basically just read through them, asked each other, what does that mean to you? Okay, this is what it means to me. This is what it looks like in a relationship. Cool. Do you agree to that? Like, I agree to that. Yep, I agree. Awesome. And then we made it to the end. We added a few more because she came up with a few other ones that was really awesome addition. And then by the end, it was like, all right, like this is really cool. And then we just went into like everything. Like she started telling me about like her family, extended family, just like growing up, all that, and then I did too. And we pretty much hung out every day since. We're just in the process of like now really syncing up our lives together, because that's been, I mean, that was back in April, so it's about 4 to 5 months ago.
Yeah.
And that's how we did it. Now, for people watching, whether you're already in a relationship, whether you're single, whether you've been married for 50 years, you can gain from that. One, getting clear with yourself. What do you want with, one, yourself, and two, with your partner? So get clear on that first. If you don't know what you want, you got to figure that out. And even if you don't have a big vision for your life, that's okay. You just want to like feel good, feel grateful, give back, things like that.
And also just like, I mean, I would highly suggest watching the principles that Mitch made videos on this last week.
I'll put them after this.
It's also a point of, what do I stand by? What do I come back to? What are the grounding points in my life? Like, do I want to be honest? Do I want to be responsible? Do I want to observe what's around me and support it in the best way that I can? Do I want to treat my body in the best way that I can treat my body? Do I want within a partnership for each other to be our sole sexual partner, to, you know, get married and have kids someday? Do you want to make sure you don't emotionally manipulate each other? Just like all these things, like, what are the personal things that you stand by and the things that you want in a relationship? Really look at that. That's a point that I took a whole week just to sit down and investigate and really be honest with myself of like, okay, what are the points that I see would, you know, direct my life in a way that wouldn't just be good for me, but it would also be good for anyone I came into contact with, and ultimately for the impact and like the goals that I'm working towards. And so that's a really big point, is to get honest with yourself. That's something that our relationship has taught me more than anything, I think, is the intimacy with yourself. Because until you have that intimacy with yourself, you can't be honest with yourself. You can't take responsibility for anything because you haven't even investigated everything. And I refused, like my whole life refused to get intimate with myself, to really go through the inner workings, and that has been really fruitful, not only for myself, but also for us in our relationship, so that I can like be aware of those points, and then to be able to, you know, communicate with Mitch if there's a point that I need support on. And so the relationship agreement really, it's 1+1, in that I have my own principles, he has his own principles, and they were in alignment, and now we've come together. And I've never even looked at this, like, people say in relationships, like, you create this like point of oneness by being in a relationship, and I always just thought that meant having sex. Like, that's literally all I thought that meant. And I now see that's not what that means at all. That it's like, if I'm ever having an issue and I voice it to Mitch and we talk about it, since I'm coming from a point of complete like vulnerability and ability to be intimate with him and honest and upfront and straightforward, and likewise with him, we're able to, like, not just me try and figure out an issue, but then it's like both of us figuring out this issue at the same time. So then it's not even just like 1 + 1 = 2. It's like 1 + 1 = like 10. We figure out problems like at lightning speed. It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah. page because we have that agreement.
Exactly.
And that's something that I had never had before.
Likewise.
Yeah. And so that is really, really powerful. And I cannot recommend it highly enough. That's why we keep making these videos.
Yes.
Cool. And then, so we did that. And I mean, that was literally that simple. We just hung out one day. She made me dinner. She made us dinner. And it was like a really cool conversation. It took us maybe 2 hours. And then after that, like, we just kept hanging out. I think we went on a walk, and it was like just really phenomenal. Like, felt amazing. Like the whole warm, fuzzy feeling of like being in love. Like, of course there's that. And there's even deeper feeling of fulfillment with it because it's not going to run out. It's like this never-ending supply of love.
Because it's every single day that we see, not only in ourselves, but in the other person, that we're living out the principles that we agreed upon, which is how we show love to the other person. Obviously, there's other ways that, we make love real within our relationship. But even if there's nothing else, which there is other things throughout the day, every day, but even if there was nothing else, you would know that the other person is standing by the principles that you agreed upon. And that is the most fulfilling. That's all you need, honestly. But, I mean, you see the person, and that's a whole other point. I mean, he likes, and I get to think about how he likes it, how he likes his eggs prepared, and how he likes salt and pepper on his eggs, and like all these things, these little details. It's like, I enjoy that. I enjoy making love real in the relationship, and I enjoy seeing us making love real by living out our principles every day, and being able to be honest with each other when we stand by the principles, but then we come together to work through that point, and we always go back to that. And we literally have you can call it a conversation, you can call it a date, or whatever you want, but it's like one of the most fulfilling parts of my every 2 weeks is when we sit down and we just go over the principles that we agreed upon. And it's like every time we do it, there's new points that come up in almost every single one. It's so fascinating just to see, because you're living them out every day, and so you're learning new things within that, and you're growing and expanding within the principles that you've agreed upon. And so then you uncover new things and you see it in a new light, and it's really incredible, honestly. And just to have that other person there, not only as a soundboard, but also as just another being to and to maybe help you come to a conclusion on something that you didn't see before. If you're struggling with a certain one of the principles or agreements that you had made. And so, yeah, that's just a little snippet of the value of that.
Yeah. I mean, that was very comprehensive. Well said. So that is overall how you can actually stop fighting and start winning for real, is make it a priority to get clear on your relationship agreement. And if you don't already have a partner, just like we were saying maybe 5-6 minutes ago in the video, just look at it for yourself first. And when you're clear on that and when you're ready, that other partner will come in. Even
if you have a partner, I would still suggest looking at what your principles are.
Yeah.
And then communicating with them. Set aside a time to do it, and
we're not yet at the point of mind reading.
If you are honestly in a, there's no need to fight. The fighting point doesn't really come up. It's just communication. And it's not charged communication. Unless somebody is just like taken over by a certain point that they personally are working through, and then the other person supports them to come out of that and to observe, what was happening. So then it's just like a support system, but it's never like button heads and both of us just pissed off because we're both very logical. Like, okay, this is what we've agreed upon, and this is what isn't in alignment with that, or like just supporting each other to walk through any point. And so there's really no need to fight. And so that's how you ultimately can win every fight, is by not having one in the first place.
Yeah, or having it in such a way where you know you're both on the same team. So you're like fighting about it because it's really important to you. People know, like, okay, we're gonna work through it.
Yeah.
Like there's gonna be a conclusion to it. So now there's not that whole like, I want to win this fight, but like, oh, they might walk away and like.
And then there's that like point of. There's been a couple of times where you're like, I'm not going to bed until we talk about this.
Yeah, I mean that's a big thing. Like, how many times have in a relationship you've been in had some sort of argument or something was off, and then you both ended up going to sleep, whether together or apart.
Right.
That I don't let that happen. So.
What has been supportive about us doing that? Let me just hold that.
A lot of things. I would say the biggest one is now we don't lose it. Lose it meaning that we disagreed on. Like that's earlier today, she was or something. And or maybe like we had some sort of like disagreement or something, and we didn't have to resolve it. But if you don't address it, you will probably forget about it. And if you forget about it, it just gets suppressed.
And then later on comes up.
And later on it will come up. And you'll build it up as ammunition, and you may not even remember what it was. I'm just pissed. Just pissed. And so by this, it's like Jess and I mean, we do a lot of work on ourselves to be able to be stable enough to not get overwhelmed by emotion. So we do that through self-forgiveness, or the stuff in the self-perfected group. Like, we have those materials that we use, and that helps us process our own stuff. But so now when things come up, it's not that hard for us to go through that. But I mean, we still have ways to go. Definitely have ways to go. Yet it's, I know that we are on track. Everything that we want to do, and a lot more, because we're on that firm foundation. And so that's why we never really fight. We're both winning. Or even if we do fight, it's actually, you actually can gain, and you can win from that experience together. It's actually like you both learn, okay, we totally screwed up there. Let's do this better.
It's the gift in what you always say that.
The gift?
Yeah, what you always say that there's a gift. What's the gift in that?
Oh yeah, that's a great question to ask yourself with anything, especially the stuff that you think sucks. Ask yourself, how is this a gift?
Yeah, so within your, if you want to call it fight or controversy or argument or disagreement or confusion or something, if you do truly have principles to come back to, and you just have a logical conversation about that point, there will be a gift in that. There will always be a gift in that. One of you will expand, or both of you, and it could be on just one small little point, or it could end up being a really large point that you didn't even see before or weren't aware of.
Yeah. So with that, go out there, look at this stuff for yourself. None of this video will do you any good if you don't actually physically change yourself and change how you move. So, take one step forward.
Yes.
Set some time aside tonight, tomorrow, grab a piece of paper, notes, and stay tuned for more videos to come.
Do it.